Greetings everyone, welcome to Sonic Super Special 13. Today we're taking a look at the Sonic Adventure Adaption. That is, the bulk of the adaption. Technically, the Sonic Adventure Adaption began in Archie Sonic 79, and that issue, along with issues 80, 81, and 82, had the task of setting things up while at the same time incorporating comic original elements. If you haven't seen my review of those 4 issues, it'd be a good idea to watch them first. However, I am a nice guy, so I'll recap what you need to know going into this issue. If you don't want to hear any of this and want to go straight to the review, skip to this time right here. I'm giving you a chance. Alright, here's the recap. Dr. Eggman has discovered the location of a powerful water beast known as Chaos in the mysterious Cat Country. He excavated the area until he came across Chaos's prison, a black emerald. Once freed, Chaos led Eggman to a mural which shows him how to power up Chaos. 7 Chaos Emeralds. Eggman went to the one place he knows where to find some emeralds, or at least the equivalent of several, the floating island. Instead of taking the entire Master Emerald, Eggman shattered it and took some pieces. This proved to be a mistake since pieces of the Chaos Chamber got mixed in with the shards. Also, a piece of Chaos went missing, so he sent his new E100 series robots to find it. One of them, E102 Gamma, found a piece inside a frog. The frog's friend, Big the Cat, tried and failed to stop Gamma from taking him, so he vowed to follow and get him back. Which is hard since Gamma flew back to the egg carrier. With the missing piece, Eggman restored Chaos to a humanoid shape. And then the two started emerald hunting. After the floating island crashed, Knuckles went after Eggman and the missing shards. He made a pit stop when he came across ruins similar to the ones on his island. This is when a glowing ball of light named Tikal appeared and began explaining to Knuckles the history of the area, including how Chaos was sealed in the Black Emerald. Sonic and his friends got involved by intercepting an Eggman transmission, thinking he's discovered the hidden city of the ancients. In actuality, it was probably related to Eggman digging up Chaos. Regardless, they planned to head over to the city and warn the people about him. Amy wanted to come along too, but she's too young and inexperienced. Thanks to a magic ring, however, she made herself older, and she joined the expedition. They arrived in the hidden city in the mountain, also known as Station Square, and while things were tense at first, the locals seemed to take a liking to them. Amy went off on her own to shop, and she encountered a bird pursued by Eggman's robots. She tried to defend the bird, which only resulted in Amy herself getting kidnapped. She and the bird would later be freed by Gamma, who's been having some doubts about his boss. Unaware of Amy's kidnapping, Sonic traveled along Station Square's rooftops until he came across a conflict between the police and Chaos. Sonic managed to defeat Chaos, but Eggman, who watched from afar, said this is only the beginning. You have no idea how right you are, Eggman. We begin with the aftermath of Chaos Zero's attack. The mayor visits the freedom fighters at the hotel to extend his thanks. He says there's something familiar about the water monster, bringing up an old story his grandfather told him as a kid involving a creature called Perfect Chaos. Before he continues, Nate Morgan arrives to inform everyone that Amy is missing. After searching her room and finding no trace, Sonic comes to the conclusion that Chaos and Amy's disappearance are connected by one thing: Eggman. The freedom fighters then split off into 3 teams. Bunny and Antoine go looking for Amy throughout Station Square. Good luck guys, because you will never find her in the city. Sally and Nate Morgan are in the Station Square library trying to find additional information about Chaos. Here's what they discovered. An Echidna tribe came upon a bunch of creatures known as the Chow, whom worship their god Chaos. Chaos proceeded to wipe out the Echidnas, and to stop it, the Chow absorbed its energies, and in the process, was transformed into 7 Super Emeralds, which were then scattered throughout Mobius. It just so happens, Nate found one of them years ago, the same one that we've seen throughout the Sonic series thus far. Speaking of the Hedgehog, he and Tails are flying outside trying to look for Chaos. Only Chaos spots them first. Also nearby is Knuckles, who is still with Tikal the Bright Light. Sonic and Tails spot him below and land to meet up. As Knuckles explains the light and his mission to gather the Master Emerald shards, the 3 are ambushed by Chaos. They try to keep it at bay until Knuckles and Chaos directly get into it. The result? The 2 Chaos Emeralds Knuckles found in issue 81 fell out of his glove and into Chaos itself, transforming it into Chaos 2. Not that you can tell with this art. Sonic and Knuckles engage the creature while Tails spots 2 pieces of the Master Emerald, which look like Chaos Emeralds oddly enough. It is an amazing coincidence to have Master Emerald pieces here, but if they weren't, we wouldn't have Tails drop them and Eggman picking them up to feed to Chaos, thus giving us Chaos 4. It continues attacking Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, this time on a lily pad lake, while Eggman lays out his plan, which is basically, I will feed Chaos the equivalent of 7 Chaos Emeralds, then have him destroy the hidden city of the ancients so I can build Robotnik Land on its ruins. Kinda hard to accomplish that plan when our heroes are able to use their skills to pull the encase the creature in sand then turn it into glass to seal it method. Then again, this creature is currently powered by the equivalent of 4 Chaos Emeralds, so it breaks out and escapes, along with Eggman. Sonic and Tails plan to follow while Knuckles returns to his original task. We move over to Big the Cat. Ever since Gamma ran off with Froggy, he's been tracking him. Somehow. He apparently lost a trail at this body of water until an airship rises underneath him. The Egg Carrier. Hey, we gotta get Big on board somehow. Sonic and Tails are in pursuit. Before you say anything, I'm aware that the plane looks different. I'll talk about it later. For now, they're dodging the Egg Carrier's projectiles until Tails decides to transform the plane, which does nothing but add a new complication. How are they going to land the plane with no gear while at the same time being shot at? Well, the tornado is not the only machine that can transform. Eggman begins the process with the Egg Carrier so he can crash through the mountain and into Station Square. But Sonic, who of course survived the landing along with Tails, quickly cancels the action. He knows exactly how to do this because he played the game. There. Eggman's not taking this lying down.
Gamma!
How can I serve you, Dr. Robotnik?
Get rid of these pests! Show them what you've got!
Aye, aye, sir. I will comply.
And don't disappoint me, or else!
Oh, Gamma's showing Sonic and Tails what he's got alright. Elsewhere, Knuckles is figuring out his next move when Tikal the Navi here helps out. She shows him a vision of Sonic and Tails going to the Egg Carrier and that the plane they're using has a Super Emerald on board. Yeah, it could be bad if Eggman and Chaos got a hold of that. After the vision, he finds himself on board the ship. Back to the Gamma fight, Sonic damages him by reflecting the blast back at him. He's about to finish him off when Amy blocks him. Let's head back over to Big. He reunites with Froggy, who just happens to be hopping around. Big hugs him so hard, a Chaos Emerald pops out of the frog's mouth. It's also revealed that Big found another Chaos Emerald during his journey, and Froggy still has his Chaos-possessed tail. Eggman snatches the emeralds and immediately feeds them to Chaos. Let's return to Sonic.
Hey, the ship is losing altitude!
Hurry, Tails! Take Amy and get out of here!
Well, what about you?
I'll find that Eggman and put him out of commission!
Amy, Tails, and Gamma take off while Sonic heads over to Big's location. Froggy, for some odd reason, decides to hop into the newly transformed Chaos 6. Big's able to fish him out, and now the frog's tail is gone. The two leave as Knuckles arrives on the scene. It's 2 versus 2 as Sonic and Knuckles take on Chaos 6 and Eggman and his ice bots. The bots freeze Sonic and Knuckles in place, allowing Chaos 6 to start consuming the Echidna. Sonic puts a stop to that by freezing Chaos with an ice bot. The two then break out and smash the frozen Chaos to bits. The fight, combined with the altitude issue, is not good for the Egg Carrier, and it starts falling. Eggman escapes, and Knuckles has to carry Sonic to safety. Big stole the plane earlier. We see what happens to everyone. Well, almost everyone. I'll explain later. Sonic and Knuckles part ways. Tails and Amy rendezvous with everyone in Station Square. Big crashes the plane near his home, and Eggman flies off with some odd blue liquid on the side of his Eggmobile. Adaptions are subjective. Some people like it when things are removed or changed around for pacing or the like. Others hate it because it loses something in the translation. Then you get things like bad adaptions in general, and so on. I won't talk about that further since that's what channels like Dominic Noble's are for. The point is, what makes or breaks an adaptation of something I'm intimately familiar with comes down to the following: how focused the story is, and plot holes formed due to content omission. The story in this issue overall is surprisingly coherent. Granted, the writers, yes, more than one worked on this issue, had a blueprint in the form of the game's cutscenes. They had to do some tweaking to fit it within a 48-page special. For instance, the encounter with Chaos in the Mystic Ruins. It's a combination of the encounter at Tails' workshop, Knuckles' encounter at the hotel, and the Chaos 4 encounter. It makes sense because there is no Tails workshop out here, Knuckles has been outside for most of this adaptation, and we need to see Eggman's plan for Station Square in some fashion. Likewise, the battle with Chaos 6 has both Sonic and Knuckles fighting the Beast, as opposed to fighting it separately in the game. Yeah, it's there for gameplay and story reasons, but again, for the sake of squeezing it into a comic book, it's fine. Story items have been cut, like Tails taking on Eggman in Station Square, Amy trying to find Birdie's family, and Gamma hunting the E-Series robots. I'm fine with that as well, since those story beats haven't been established in the comic to warrant them. After this issue, we never see Gamma again until years later in real time, so he's got an extended lifespan. Birdie just straight up disappears between issue 82 and this one. I assume he flies off, but then what was the point of having him here? In the game it made sense. He had a Chaos Emerald. To me, that's a minor plot hole right there. With that said, let's move on to how this special has numerous plot holes. The big one being Tails apparently flying two separate planes. Again, it makes sense in the game. Sonic and Tails were chasing the egg carrier with the red tornado until it was shot down. Tails then finished the more powerful Tornado 2 by acquiring a Chaos Emerald. There is no explanation for the Tornado 2 being in the comic, especially since, as I said earlier, there is no Tails workshop in the comic. Best guess, it was a production error. The colorists, on their own or following instructions, caused the plot hole by trying to match things from the game at the cost of continuity. I think it would be easier if it was just the one plane, since the plane used to bring them to Station Square used Nate's Super Emerald, as does this one. I wouldn't be surprised if it was retconned to be just one plane. Before we speculate that Tails went to Station Square's body paint shop, issue 83 would disagree, but I'll save it for then. On a related note, the Chaos Emeralds. Not that most of them just show up. Knuckles having two makes sense thanks to issue 81. I'd buy Big finding one on his travels, a bit contrived, but yeah, possible. And as for Tails stumbling across a couple, they're supposed to be Master Emerald shards, and that whole thing about them being scattered around was established, so yeah. But then they look like Chaos Emeralds, and like the Chaos Emeralds, achieve the same effect: transforming chaos. What an amazing coinky-dink, but how else are we going to get the monster to change? My main issue is that most of the emeralds are a different color. During this period in the comic's history, all Chaos Emeralds on Mobius are green. Like with the tornado, the colors were changed to better reflect the games and causing a plot hole in the process. Not as bad as the tornado, but still. To jump ahead a bit, there are different colored Chaos Emeralds in this continuity. However, they're in outer space. That's something for another time. I'd question where the one Froggy swallowed came from, but the answer is probably the same for the Tornado and the other colored Chaos Emeralds. Speaking of Froggy, here's where that possible plot hole I mentioned in issue 82 comes in. If you recall, the piece of Chaos was removed from Froggy and it seemed to return him to normal based on this panel. Here though, he still has the possessed tail. Maybe Eggman didn't get all of Chaos put back into the monster. That would explain how Froggy hopped into Chaos 6 for no reason. A couple more things. The stuff with the Freedom Fighters and the mayor, it doesn't go anywhere in this issue, due to the fact that, again, we have a couple of different writers working on it, and one disregards some things from the other. Finally, the art. I don't like it. To his credit, penciler Ron Lim has done some good work for other companies like Marvel Comics. However, he's not a good fit for the Sonic series. As far as I know, this is his first work on the franchise. I could be wrong though. I say this because he'll be penciling a lot of Sonic stories up until issue 159. Well, that's it for Sonic Adventure's main story. But like in the game, there are the events of the final story. We'll be heading back into the main series to begin wrapping up the overall adaptation. See you in issue 83. Here's a dark thought. Maybe the reason we haven't seen Birdie in this issue is because the Chaos-possessed Froggy ate him, and all that was left is the turquoise Chaos Emerald, the same one Birdie had in the game.